Greetings, dear ones. It is April 2nd, 2021, also known as Good Friday in the Christian tradition this year. And we are starting an hour later than normal because I had some major technical difficulties, and actually the first presentation was erased. So hopefully you are able to catch this. I will post it both on YouTube, of course. It will be posted and reminded here on the Healers Universe Facebook page. And if you are on my mailing list, you will also receive the brief newsletter introduction and today's recording. So if you have not signed up, please email me at andrea@healersuniverse.com. That's HEALERS universe.com. And today I had initially, as is my norm on Good Fridays, do a very kind of new age, new thought, future, current and future interpretation of the Stations of the Cross as they're laid out in the Catholic tradition. But it is a bit nippy today, so, and they were predicting it to be very cold and potentially wet. So we are not meeting outside and in the labyrinth as usual. Today I have been sitting in preparation, well, all week, different times throughout the week, but particularly this morning in preparation for today's Ancient Future Wisdom talk and practice. And it's been very, very powerful. The energetics are such that I have never felt and experienced before on, and they have been all week. And I've always tried to share and teach, and usually had workshops or special events around this time during Passover, Easter, because it is generally a very potent and powerful time to be able to do a lot of changing and transforming. But I have never experienced it so clearly and strongly as this week. And today is a very particular, energetic, and very, very powerful. Last night, with the tradition of the Last Supper and the washing of the feet, almost setting up, a cleansing to take place throughout the coming days, today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And so the title for today's talk has changed a bit, and it is Jesus, was he the great exception or the great example? For many, many years, the ancients, my Council of Intergalactic Beings, who I've worked with for 20-something years, has indicated and shown me in various ways that Jesus was actually a living being, although there is no scientific evidence. There is only the information in the Christian tradition Bible, but there is no factual historical evidence and proof that he did exist. But the belief at this point, whether you believe that he was an actual being or whether it is an accumulation of all of the philosophy and tradition and teachings um, throughout time, it doesn't really change the fact that we have a beautifully laid out path of becoming an evolved human being, a being that can be walking in this 3D experience, which is very, very polarized, very separate, and very um, low vibration as far as vibrations go in the universe. And for a universal being to physicalize in this particular level of dimensionality is very rare, if not done but once in a universe. It would be likening a human being to take the form of an amoeba almost. That's the difference, and that doesn't even describe well the wide range of difference between a universal being who has incorporated the level of experience of this universe and even more universes. And yet, we each have that level of spiritual potential, that ability to transform and transmute the lower frequency experiences into a wide spiritual incorporation of soul aspects and live in this third dimension. So I very much align with the traditions and philosophies who speak of Jesus as the great example rather than the great exception. Today, being Good Friday, there is the teaching of what is, as I said, traditionally in the Catholic um, experience or the Catholic tradition, Good Friday, when Jesus is said to have been condemned to death and carried the cross a long way to the place where he was finally crucified and died. And this is, we all have our, as it said, crosses to bear. For me, it's really a question of the choice to come in and physicalize, as did this universal being. We choose to come into this reality and physicalize our soul, physicalize our spiritual experiences in human form. And that is certainly not easy. This is a very physical based dimension, we are in very fragile and vulnerable vessels, these human bodies, that can be um, damaged or eliminated in countless ways, which makes the risk factor and the danger very, very high. Um, Oftentimes, people have cited it as something along the lines of Westworld or one of those fantasy um, shows where you know, there are a lot of risks and you are having different experiences. But when we look at those, um, the cross as our wounds, our human childhood wounds that we have chosen to take on, to carry, in order to explore and experience a specific aspect of a soul purpose, or our soul purpose is the exploration and adventure of a particular soul aspect that we've come to um, work with, complete, oftentimes achieve a mastery of, simply because we have been exploring and investigating and researching and experiencing it in a myriad of ways, both as humans and any other form that we've chosen in physical. And also, our souls have explored that aspect in the non physical. So, this is a very, very, very special place with all of its very, very high risk and potential for um, physical discomfort. There is also, at the other end of the spectrum, the potential for physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual elation and ecstasy, and everything in between. So when we kind of look at us carrying those crosses of our childhood wounds, not as a burden or punishment, but as something that we've chosen to explore with the intent, with the um, purpose, with the goal of evolving that, then those childhood aspects of simply the pain or the fear or the anger or the sorrow that came with them dies away in order to allow for a transcended experience, a transcended form of that wound, and thereby also allowing for the soul potential to be channeled in and through this physical dimension, our physical experience, combining both. And that's been the information that I've received from the ancients about Jesus's experience, that he was rarely far away from or out of touch with the divinity within, despite experiencing the human challenges and um, pains and fears and losses and sorrows that we all go through. So the wounds as our crosses parts of that must die in order to resurrect the true adult, the adult that can take the responsibility of choices made in action, word, or even thought. For this is absolutely a created and creative dimension. We have the potential to design, reform, recreate anything that we choose. And physics is daily coming with more and more evidence and proof that such is the case, that we are the designers of this reality and that we can utilize, in their words, our thoughts. For me, it is not merely our thoughts, but our emotional um, awareness, our emotional maturity that allows us to blend with the power to create. For you wouldn't want to hand a child an extremely powerful tool. You wouldn't want a small child to be able to drive, for example, and have a powerful vehicle that can, yes, bring wondrous things and take you to wondrous places, but that also can be a very, very dangerous weapon or a very, very dangerous force when not when used carelessly or without the capability of a mature adult to um, be aware of all that is going on and all that can potentially occur if you do not follow the laws and um, be aware of others around you, cars, people on bicycles, etc., the awareness of the others. So we must achieve this capacity of a mature, responsible perspective to be able to channel in the true power to create and to hold and use and direct that spiritual power. So this is the precise reason for the current evolution. Um, we've seen throughout history, and even if you use the Bible as a historical passage of humanity, where initially brother can kill brother, Cain and Abel, right? We have the ability to kill without necessarily consequences. Initially, that was the case. Then we moved into a level of civilization and law where we were taking an eye for an eye and a hand for a hand or what have you. And that is a very primitive form of law, but at least it was the beginning of awareness of your inability to cause harm or take from another. And as that has evolved, you know, we move through to an age of wisdom. And all of us do have, at some point, usually in young adulthood, a period of time, short time perhaps, where we are feeling our fullest and we are at our height and you know we are feeling and experiencing our potential. And then usually there's a slide, if you will, backwards, or we lose that. And we can, you know, see that in the age of Solomon, there was great wisdom, but without the collective also having a level of or a capacity to utilize the power, then that wisdom is going to be lost. And again, likening it to that young period or early period, sometime in our early life, when we all have kind of an awakening, however short or however long it may be. Excuse me. So, then we move to, again, looking at the collective. We cannot be in an evolved state with all the capacity to create a new reality if we are subjugating and enslaving and using power over another, or another group. And we've come a ways with that, but it is still absolutely occurring. Not only in countries where there is terrorism and the outright disregard for others' lives and massacring large groups of people, which we're seeing in multiple countries right now. But if that is not evolved, we as a collective cannot transcend to a point where we are channeling in, if you will, a high level of that creative power. Not to say that individuals aren't doing so, but in my experience and from the information that's been channeled to me, that comes with the transformation and transmutation of those particular wounds of childhood, because that was when we were most vulnerable, most tender, most unable to do anything about it. So we can, see that again as in the history of the Bible, the enslavement of the Jewish people for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years by the Egyptians. And at one point, we must choose to be free. And that night of Passover exemplifies or reveals the potential of freedom even over death. And death being simply a passage from one experience to another. But it is our ability to realize that and have such a depth of spiritual connection that there is no concern or fear about that passage. And then, of course, the example of a pharaoh or a powerful being or a powerful group having power over and oppressing and controlling another group or another being, whether it's in the individual, in homes, or whether, by one or the other of the parents over the children, or, this is what we're working through in systemic racism in this country and long-standing tribal rivalries that are still within our DNA. They're in our cells because this is what we've experienced through our cultural lineages. So there is much evolution going on right now, not only individually, but collectively. And thereby having the power to redesign and recreate this world so that there is equity and acknowledgement of the beingness and the rights of other people, as well as aspects of nature and the earth itself. in a cooperative way. So we are basically talking about a level of freedom, and with the coming days as the example, Good Friday, and taking that cross of our wounds and walking a path to a moment where there is utter freedom spiritually, and that um, I use the word transcendence, but that doesn't entirely describe a level of transmutation is better, or transfiguration of those very, very um, primitive experiences of humans to a way of being wherein we can channel in and through us that spiritual power, the other dimensional aspects of us into this physical experience, to not only, as I said, recreate our own lives, but this planet as a whole. Um, just looking at my notes. So, again, this is an opportunity to explore your own enslavement, your own crosses that we continue to hold. I have a client this week who is wanting to make a change in her relationship and is still very, very, very um, afraid to do so. For not only afraid, but there is a part within that still hopes and expects and wants the change in the other to take place, so that it does meet her needs and expectations and longings unmet as a child. And so often we do look to the other for solution or resolution or ease of our own pain or needs. And as long as we are doing so, we are enslaved and trapped in that same pattern, that same repetition of seeking and wanting and it not being met, and then again the upset and sadness and anger that ensues, which we tend to either hold in our bodies, resulting in physical dis-ease or imbalance, or some sort of financial or other physically manifested pains, wounds, crosses, until such time as we are willing to delve into the depth of that pattern and transmute it, changing it from what it was, which was truly being wounded by another, into the freedom that comes with the um, widened experience of that transmutation. You're changing it from a wound into the greatest gift that can be had, um, changing it from one end of the spectrum to the other. and thereby having the freedom to realize and be and sensate yourself as an energetic spiritual being in physical form, having an adventure and participating in this great evolutionary leap of an entire species. And so Jesus's example of transfiguration to that wider spiritual transcended being is something that each one of us can do. We each have that potential, not merely once we leave this reality, this dimension, but right here and right now. And it does take a very, very difficult walk with a lot of pain. But when we look at that walk, for example, of being one day long versus an entire lifetime, so too can that process of transmutation and going into the depth of the emotional piece, a pretty short period of time, be it months or be it a year, or even I've had clients in a session turn something completely inside out, deconstruct it, and reconfigure their system in a wholly new way, such that you are simply not re-experiencing that wounding over and over and over again that I mentioned earlier. There is so much and such strong energetics channeling in through today that you may or may not have noticed from the inception of my speaking today, or this episode of Ancient Future Wisdom. It's been very, very challenging, I will tell you, to stay in a more 3D space. So trying to share with you some of this information. And so at this moment in time, I would invite you to simply allow yourself the great benefit and great gift of simply receiving the transmission of energies that have accumulated to bring you to a deeper and wider experience and awareness of yourself, your soul purpose, and hopefully, from what I've shared, a larger awareness of why you are encountering challenges in your life that reflect patterns within of particular wounding experiences that you as a soul chose to then, as an adult, explore, transmute, transfigure in such a way that you have the capacity to hold and channel and use and direct great spiritual power for your own life and as a collective for this planet. So simply allow yourself to feel your sits bones if you can, and sit firmly and pointedly on the chair or couch or floor. And I invite you to say to yourself or out loud, I ask and I allow my body. I am asking and I am allowing my energy field. I am asking and I am allowing my wider self. I am asking and I am allowing my guides and teachers and masters to assist me and guide me in dropping down and within to a state of consciousness that will enable me to truly intake the transmission that is being offered at this time. For you too are a great exception. If you are listening to this channel, your system has resonated and aligned with energetics of a very, very high frequency and spiritual power, for your own transformation, transmutation, or transfiguration. This physical experience, which is exceptional in this universe, allows for you as an exceptional being to be here, have the experience that you designed in conjunction and cooperation with that of your soul family and the multitude of beings who are currently here having their own individual spiritual exploration and adventure. And that includes beings not merely human, but in all the many forms manifest on this particular planet at this particular time, manifest in the physical or even the non-physical, for there are doorways that allow for the entrance and exit of beings that exist within a different set of mathematical and physics parameters. So no, you are not imagining other beings or the sentience of aspects of nature or even climatological or landforms. These are the potential spiritual prowess that you may connect to, communicate with, cooperate with, collaborate with, and commune with incorporating the physical and non-physical, much like the great teacher Jesus. And as you deepen another full level into these energetics, You may experience the grace, the state of grace. Wherein what you may be holding as condemnation or guilt or shame or wrongness is revealed to be merely misperceptions and untruths of who you truly are. Again, they have purpose, so do not dismiss them or diminish them. But for this moment, the energetics at hand are creating a space of freedom from those particular crosses. Moment of relief, much like the teacher Jesus is purported to have experienced as another called Simon lifted that cross. That burden. Often we cling to those very emotional states as a means to avoid or delay our own spiritual expansion. And once again to deepen into this state of grace. Where you may physically or energetically sensate that state within your very body, vehicle, temple. Others may simply experience the profound energetic connection to a wider state of being. Or still others the precious divinity within, not in thought or vision, but to the depth of your very atoms. For life itself is divine. Life in all its forms, life in all its frequencies, in all dimensions, in all worlds, in all realms, in all universes. There is only the one. Albeit in countless forms, such as yours. And you are welcome to stay in this space for as long as you desire, or allowing your wider self and your energy field to guide you and lead you, not your brain. Allow the process of incorporation to be done for you. In such a way that you are able to experience and sensate that in between space of your non-physical self and your physical self. May feel somewhat like those moments of awakening in the morning when you're slipping back and forth from a form of sleeping to a slightly awake state. or you may begin to experience your outer edges, while the inner aspects of you are still rather diffuse and unsubstantial. And whenever it is right for you, according to your body, energy field, and wider self, not your brain, then and only then, gently, gently, gently begin the process of opening your eyes and feeling yourself firmly seated. And again, that's a very gradual process in your own pace, in your own way, that your energy field and your wider self lead you. Not the brain. It doesn't have the capability of knowing the ideal rhythm and way for you. And when and as you do open your eyes again, very softly, gently, be very kind of soft and quiet with yourself. For that was a very, very deep transmission. And it may take you a bit to feel the incorporation and recalibration of your system. And then when you feel ready, by all means, please have a goodly amount of water, and make sure that you drink a lot of water over the next couple days, because if you truly opened your system to the transmission of energetics today, there has been a very significant upgrade of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual being. You are, no, I'm hearing a little bit different. I would interpret what is being said that you might want to wait a day or so in between listening to this recording, because it is so profound a transmission that you might have to integrate in between. So do keep that in mind. I wish you the most beautiful holiday weekend. However you view it, however you experience it. They're blossoming and blooming. Everybody was a little affected by that freeze last night, so the more you commune with the bits of nature around you or that you go to this weekend, please be aware of that and maybe extend some of your warmth and energy to them. And as always, I am here. Please contact me if you have any questions or if anything comes up that you are unsure of after listening to this and experiencing the energetic transmissions. And of course, should you desire to do your own next level of transmutation and transfiguration, it would be my great privilege to walk with you and guide you in that, in a private session. I will be back next Friday, of course, at noon. All glitches have been resolved. And again, from the bottom of my heart and the depth of my being, I am in such great gratitude, honor, and love for your presence on this planet at this time. Be well. Bye-bye.